The Titanic had been missing at the bottom of the ocean for decades until 1985. That's when Robert Ballard located the wreckage about 400 miles off the coast of Newfoundland. Ballard, an oceanographer and Navy officer, developed his own remotely operated underwater vehicle and turned to the Navy to fund his project. After an 8-day search, Ballard became the first person to set eyes on the Titanic. April 14th, 1912 is when it crashed. Another person closely familiar with the Titanic is director James Cameron, along with his Oscar-winning movie, of course. He's actually made 33 dives to the wreckage site itself. James and Robert, thank you both so much for joining us. We understand this is not only a difficult day because for the industry, the exploring industry, but also for both of you personally because you knew some of the explorers on board the submersible. And I know first off, we're all thinking of their families. Bob, let's start with you. What first crossed your mind when you heard the news today? I understand you both have a deeper understanding of this than most. So what was your first thought today?
Well, when it happened, both Jim and I were at sea on that Sunday, and Jim called me and told me about it, and we both instantly knew that it was gone. Once the data we heard that they were experiencing trouble, they were on their descent, and then when the tracking system went out and everything went out, the only way you could explain it was a catastrophic implosion. And we all have not talked to anybody, because we knew today would be the day when it would be confirmed. Right, Jim?
Yeah, we didn't. I don't think we wanted to come forward. I got, as you did, Bob, approached by many outlets for comment, and it just seemed like speculation, even though we felt we knew what the outcome was going to be, and it was certainly zero surprise to me today. I was even able to visualize the wreck site in my mind over the last few days, and you know, as described, I think it's exactly what we expected. But, you know, I can't imagine what these poor families have been through over the last 4 days, being given false hope here, banging noises, da-da-da, this and that. And, you know, it must have been just, you know, horrible for them. And I feel so bad for them. But I also felt that, as we agreed, Bob, that it would be insensitive to come forward with a dissenting voice to the story that was in motion at the time. I just wish we could have gotten an ROV to the site much much earlier and gotten eyes on, which took 4 days. And you know, this thing just seemed like a prolonged nightmare.
You two
well,
are
the French
Sorry,
knew exactly where to go. As soon as they arrived, they put their vehicle in and they dove to the spot of the last contact and dropped down, and there was the wreckage.
As I said, you two are so intimately familiar with this site and what it takes to get there. James, I know you were talking today. You were struck by the similarity of what happened with the Titanic disaster to, you know, unfortunately, what has happened here with warnings going out beforehand. Talk to me a little bit about the irony.
Well, it is. Look, people are fascinated by Titanic. They've been fascinated by that story since it sank. And yes, there's the whole, you know, all the millionaires that died and all that sort of thing. But to me, the big irony is that the Titanic sank because of bad seamanship. The captain was warned, and he took a decision to go full speed into a known ice field that he had Marconigram, you know, telegrams in his pocket, warning about the ice ahead. And on a moonless night where they couldn't see anything, they just steamed full speed ahead. And I kind of feel that that's what happened here. I feel that this was such a preventable tragedy. We've never had a tragedy like this in the entire history of deep submergence, deep diving. You have these, you know, highly certified systems like Alvin at Woods Hole, which Bob is very familiar with. Even the Russian submersibles that I dove with, every 5 years they had to be reclassified and recertified and so on. And you have all these legitimate deep diving operations around the world, and even most of the tourist operations around the world use certification from, let's say, ABS, the American Bureau of Shipping. And this particular outfit didn't do that. I had deep concerns about the technology that they were using, composite fiber wound filament hull, which I don't believe has any place in deep submergence. And I know a thing or two about you know, the engineering that goes into subs. I designed and built my own sub and went at one point 10 years ago, went 3 times deeper than Titanic at the Challenger Deep. So it's all just engineering, and these are understood and known problems. The last thing somebody should be thinking about when they get into a sub to pay to go deep as a tourist or as a what do you call it, like a lay explorer, they shouldn't have to worry about the sub that they're in. This is just engineering, and it's the 21st century. If you think about when we first started diving deep back in the 60s, the time between then and now is greater than the time between Orville Wright and Wilbur Wright at Kitty Hawk and the flight of the first 747. That's the amount of time that we've had to improve our understanding of materials science and safety protocols and so on. There is no excuse for what happened here, and I find it appalling and tragic.
Just lastly, for both of you, I know you both knew Stockton Rush, the CEO of OceanGate. Bob, you've known him for 30 or so years, so if you both could just talk to me a little bit about who he was, what his dream was, and what needs to happen now that this has happened.
Well, he was a dreamer. I met him. He was very young when I first met him, and he told me about his dream to develop a technology to dive on the Titanic. But that was about it. I wasn't that involved at all. Jim really understands the engineering science on that particular submarine. And like Jim said, every time I dove in, I've dove in 9 different deep submersibles, and I've never worried about the integrity of the hull.
Yeah, you should be worried. If you're going to the Titanic, you should be worried about entanglement or some other problem. You shouldn't be worried about the basic platform that you're diving in. Look, I never knew Stockton well, and I had no association whatsoever with OceanGate, but I was aware of the nature of their design, and I had been very critical of that type of design. There was a prior design that was being built. It was a competing design to ours to get to Challenger Deep back a decade ago, and I was very vocal even to the people involved in that, saying somebody's going to get killed in a wound filament composite hull. It's just a really, really bad idea. And we don't know, we're speculating right now that was the cause of the implosion. It might have been the dome port, for all we know, which I've also heard was not certified to the depth that it was being dived to. But we don't know right now. But I feel pretty sure that it was that composite hull. But in any case, they never went through any certification process. So that, to me, is misrepresenting themselves to their paying clients. And I guess one of the lessons is caveat emptor. Really look carefully. If you're going to get into a sub, look carefully at the company that designed the sub, look at its certification, and all those things. I would also strongly recommend that anybody that's going to take tourists down to a deep site have an ROV on board that can reach the same depth, so that they can assist if there's a problem, especially entanglement, which is really the greater danger for any deep submersible that's operating by itself.
James Cameron, Bob Ballard, thank you both so much. I know this is a difficult day, but you both have insight and have seen things with your own eyes that very few people in this world have. So thank you both for the conversation. And I know also you are both thinking about those who were lost down there and their families, as we all are. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.